Alright, so I'm probably just going to do a short stream tonight. I just wanted to like finish this one up, and I haven't had a chance to at work this week, and I probably won't, so I figured might as well just do it now and get it out of the way. I'm just gonna... don't want that one. Don't want that one. I want these three. Yep, there we go. Okay, so all I'm gonna do is to modify these two layers without having to like go through and do everything. We're just gonna paint a new layer on in the right color. I'm just gonna throw a mask over this layer. That way it'll auto-select things we need it to select, or like not go over the things we don't want it to. Go undo that, get on the right layer. Pick the color I'm looking for, and it's gonna take a little bit of cleanup, I think, but that's okay. Going to do this a couple times for each different blade of grass, just because it's a little bit faster to do this and sort of clean it up on its own than try to go back and redo it each time. I clean up the lines on their own each time, right? It's a real easy way to like quickly separate background and foreground. We don't need to worry about it there because they're on the same color. We don't need a new layer for this one. I'm just sort of like clicking with the soft brush or clicking with my mouse using the soft brush just because it's a little bit easier to match the line with clicks than it is with actual like paintbrush. A brush tool or need an eraser tool, that's what I need to do here. Actually, I could just do these on the same layer. Wrong. It's a little bit easier with my pen than the mouse, but yeah, live and learn. And basically, when I said I'm using these two layers, it's basically anywhere where there's overlap or like they're too close for me to use this brush to apply this effect. I feel like that's good enough. Like, we don't need to get super detailed just because these are like relatively unimportant to the scene, so we can sort of like determine that by level of detail. They need to have enough detail to really like do what they're supposed to be doing. We weren't quite to that point yet. Alright, that's reasonable enough. So we'll save this out. The nice thing also, since I did that at its own layer, none of the modifications are going to hurt that logo, so I can save both those out as JPEGs with no problem. So we've got that taken care of. Oh, I should pause pause my sync for Dropbox, that way I don't kill my frames. And then something else I was thinking about is I went like way too like saturated with this. I'm perfectly happy with the way the smudges were going in the clouds, so I don't know, I'm tempted to delete this layer, just so I don't confuse myself, but I think the first thing I'm going to do is just tone the saturation down a hair, do like a -30 to like all of these color layers. You know, no, I liked it better with color. It sort of like changed what I was doing on this thing, but that's okay. I think you need to be just accept the fact that I'm going to be using brighter colors this time, and then in my like crows or ravens one, I can go with something a little bit more faded. I also think it's okay to go like super saturated because you never see these like eldritch horror things with like really bright colors. That's kind of one of the things I want to bring in. So let's do a little bit of smudging around for another, 10 or 15 minutes. And then I really need to go to bed so I can get ready for work. Need to be working on the right layer though. I don't know, I've said this before, but be really careful with this smudge tool, right? If you don't get it right, and if you don't sort of like go back and paint over stuff, it'll look really amateurish, just because it leaves such obvious telltale marks, right? It's okay to use here and there, just to speed up like the process. But don't use it for everything, and always remember that you're going to need to go back over and like repaint stuff with the smudge tool. Just because see how it like does these like weird color transitions. If you're not paying attention, those will be a dead giveaway to the process. And it's sort of seen as not the best. Like, I'm obviously going to be in a little bit of disagreement on that, just because using any tool in moderation or with proper applications is a good thing, right? If it's helping you out, making it easier to paint, and it's not like a crutch for you, then by all means, even if it is a crutch for you, I'd say go ahead, right? There's no such thing as cheating, using like bad tools, whatever. Unlike what some people might have you believe. But you do need to like be conscious of what those tools are doing. And if they're creating stuff you don't want in there, you need to be able to go back in and clean that up. Right? The tool should be working for you, not you working for the tools, if that makes sense. Just gonna go ahead and turn the monster back off and the sketch and reference off as well. Break down those clouds reasonably well. This cloud is probably going to be one I paint over fairly heavily. Let's get rid of this just sort of like dark edge where I didn't quite get all the way to the edge of the brush. And we'll hop back to our smudge tool. Just So I think I mentioned it last time, but one of the things I like the best about the smudge tool is getting these like flat edges in there. Right, where you can just pull the cloud color down and just sort of like blend it back in there. It leaves really like nasty marks, like when you like pull into like transparency though. So that's where you really need to be careful with it. Like along this bottom edge of the cloud. And another tip that I can give you about the smudge tool is never pull in from this edge of the canvas. I always try to like push the paint out of the canvas, if that makes sense. So like don't go this way from the edge, go out towards the edge. Just because you can get some like really weird artifacting and nasty stuff going into the edge there. Alright, so you can sort of see like the weird edges and stuff, like right in here, that the smudge tool makes. We need to go and like clean some of those up, so we're only keeping the edges we want. But it's one of those things where it's okay to make them initially with the smudge tool, because it's Photoshop. You can always go back in and like edit things and paint over the top of them without really causing any major issues. This cloud here probably needed some more attention with the brush before I did this, but I don't feel like changing tools tonight. We're going to try to sort of solve some of those issues I'm seeing just with the smudge tool, which you can kind of do. Bring that up with a couple other spots here and there, but and it's one of those things where, like, it's not a problem because the tool doesn't work. It's the fact that it takes longer to use this tool than some of those other brushes, or than, like, a brush would have to do the same thing. And that's usually when I'm just like, I should have used something else, right? I think we do need to use at least a little bit of brush here. There we go. Just need to get that dark base back in there. We lost some of that with some of the erasing and smudging we were doing, if I ever had the right color in there to begin with. Got the structure down a little bit better on this cloud there. And the smudge tool will also only work if you have like the shapes laid out roughly where they are, because you do need color there to begin with. Also, like, where these clouds are overlapping, I probably would have been better off having this cloud on a layer behind this one, but it's not, so I'm just gonna make do. Sort of paint over stuff and deal with it that way. It's one of those, this is one of those areas where I'm just like, just for this one area, it wasn't worth making things more difficult for the rest of it by making like extra layers and sort of having to make sure it's on the right space to do all this blendy stuff. It's another tip I can give you about this tool is make sure you're on like one main layer. You kind of have to have everything collapse together to use this tool effectively. Now right there's an example of what happens when you don't have the color laid in the way you need it. since I'm feeling super tired today, I think this might be all I get done tonight. Is we'll do like a little bit more of this, and then I'm gonna call it for the evening. that one to clean that up a little bit. This area is one of the more troublesome areas. So I'll sort of get this one cleaned up just a bit. I think that's enough smudging on the clouds, so I think that's what I'm going to call it for tonight. Probably get started on the monster next, just because it's so related to the clouds. We'll get the monster finished up to about the same level as the clouds. We'll do probably the guy on the shore or the ocean or something, and then sort of like cycle back through it till we're finished. But I think this is going to be like the level of detail for me to be. We'll do the brushwork first, like to go back over and clean up a lot of this smudgy stuff. But we'll get it that far, then we'll go back monster to the same level as the clouds. And the ocean, just because the ocean's going to be like really reflection based. So a lot of these colors are going to be pulled from these reflections and stuff. And yeah, we'll go from there. But anyway, thanks for coming, and I will be back tomorrow night. Probably. Might be the night after.